This is VSiN, the sports betting network.
Follow the money. That's what I always say. You always follow the money. Yeah.
This is Follow the Money with Mitch Moss and Pauly Howard on VSiN.
Here we go. Welcome in. It is Follow the Money on VSiN, the sports betting network. Mitch Moss, Pauly Howard, live with you, downtown Las Vegas. Busy Thursday afternoon/evening. A lot of huge games tonight, including Thursday Night Football. We have 2 playoff games in Major League Baseball to kick around a bunch today. Great guests on the program, including Paul Charchian coming up in 30 minutes. We'll talk some fantasy with him and also go over his best player props for tonight and this weekend. Steve Wiss, soccer, Brad Powers, college football, and Paul Bovey, professional bettor on the NFL, a little bit later on. This game, I've looked at it several times throughout the week. Speaking of Thursday Night Football here, Broncos and the Saints. And currently speaking, the Broncos at, a lot of legal books are 2.5-point favorites with high juice. Other books have them at 3, and it's a soft 3. The total is between 37.5. And I've also gone back and forth with other bettors today. Like, what's the angle here? What's the play? Can you trust the Broncos and Bo Nix laying 3 points in a game at the Saints despite all their injuries? Can you get there with that, Pauly?
Yep. Does it justify all these injuries, a 6-point move as well, and now you have Rattler going? So I agree with several tweets we received. If there's ever a time to go no touchdown, 80-1, why not? I'm with you. I don't hate it. No negativity here. It's a football game. It's on TV. Let's go. I know there's a ton of guys hurt and what's going to happen, but I love the Peyton angle. He said there's not going to be warm fuzzies and teddy bears and ice cream. The guy better get a standing ovation. I mean, what he did for that organization. I like
what Drew Brees said yesterday. He basically told the fans that are going to be at the Superdome, you better cheer, you better be on your feet, giving that guy a big applause, and then once the game starts, you want to kick his ass.
There you go. Well said. Well said. So, you're also in business here if you're Denver and you come out of here with a win. Because I was looking, they're plus 250 at DraftKings to make the playoffs. Suddenly you win this game, you're 4-3, and there's certainly a case where Houston wins the division, Baltimore and the Bills win the division, and that's it. And you get 3 from the AFC West, and then you can pick your poison. Who the other? So I don't think that's far-fetched now. When you look at what's left of the Denver schedule, and you look around the rest of the AFC, what's happened.
Yeah, you're right, because 7 teams have to make it, right?
Yeah. But the defense has played well. Nix has got to get better. I know it was shaky in the game, and he didn't do much till the fourth quarter against the Chargers. But this is a game you can win. And to me, I don't know what to do with anything New Orleans related other than Kamara over receiving yards, which you would think that would be the security blanket for Rattler and dump him off and get him at least 36 yards. We did lose that last week, but now without Olave and we're throwing to Bubs and these other guys, I mean, you would think it'd be a lot of Kamara in this game.
Yeah, that's definitely one angle. I know that he's a popular bet pretty much every single week, so I'm not going to be involved in the game, the side or the total. But I think that we can find a bunch of different player props to bet on. Kamara's not going to be my guy. I don't blame you if you do. How about a little bit down the list in terms of receiving yards? He had 2 catches for 54 yards last week, and maybe there's going to be a rapport here with Spencer Rattler moving forward as long as he's the starting quarterback. You talked about a running back being a safety blanket. What about a tight end? In this case, kind of a backup tight end. Foster Moreau is like 9.5 or 10.5 receiving yards tonight. Again, 2 for 54 last week. And I would much rather attack that than a Jawan Johnson who's 26.5 or 27.5 as the tight end.
Right.
Johnson could have 2 catches for 19 yards.
Okay.
Now, here's the thing. Moreau could have 3 catches for 8 yards and go under, or he could have 1 catch for 11 and boom. Like, that's much more manageable to me than asking a guy to go over 27, 28 yards, especially because tight ends always, it's like 3 for 19. So if that's the case, he would go over. Johnson would stay under. And there's also this. The Saints defense has really turned into a sieve. So when you look basically just at that unit against the rush, they are 30th in adjusted line yards. They are 30th against power success rate. 31st in stuffed rate, 31st in second level yards, and 25th overall in the open field. That does not bode well for a team. Although Denver on offense, they're like middle of the pack to maybe a little bit below. However, I will remind you that last week for the Buccaneers, Sean Tucker had 14 for 136 and a touchdown. His longest, by the way, was 36 yards. Bucky Irving had 14 for 81 and a touchdown. His longest rush was 31. The week before that, Kareem Hunt had 27 for 102 and a score. In week 3, it was Barkley, 17 for 147 and 2 touchdowns. And his longest run, no, he didn't have 2 touchdowns. I don't know where I got that from. His longest run was 65 yards. So Javonte Williams' longest rushes going back. It was 13 last week, 17 the week before, 16 the week before that. It's 12.5 tonight. With everything I just said, the Saints are awful at stuffing the run. They're terrible at the second level, and they're horrendous in the open field. I think Williams can go over 12.5 longest rush tonight, and I would actually trust him getting more than 11.5 carries as well, and I'll give you one more. Bo Nix, overall, I think it's a low number for rushing yards for him. That kid likes to get out and skedaddle. How about longest rush so far by game for Nix?
Yeah.
23, 22, 11, 21. Did have a 3 in there and a 7. It's 11.5 tonight. I think against this really porous defense, both guys can maybe go over their longest rush.
Figures to be a low-scoring game, and let's go back to the well with the kickers.
Yeah, yes.
We're up to longest made field goal, 49.5 yards, but again, that hasn't been a problem. And we'll get into a story later where the league is looking at doing something with the goalpost. 20% of we're on a record here with made field goals this far. 20% of them have been from 50 yards or longer. But Lutz over 1.5 is minus 160, and Group A's minus 130. But I certainly trust Lutz as well to get it done and to kick long field goals. It's also wild that Peyton makes his return home to where he was. They were a contender every single year. Allen loses this game. Now you're 5 games under 500 as the coach of the Saints, and you were just a playoff team on a regular basis with Peyton. You mentioned the defense's area of expertise. You're last in yards allowed per game. Missed tackles all over the place, how bad they've been. This is a big one here. People are out, but if you're going to lose this one after your hot start and you're going to lose 5, 6, 7 games in a row, not going to go well for Dennis Allen, and then would be another loss at home on his resume. So, Peyton wants to stick it to him as well and walk out of there with a win and try to be above 500 also. So I'd be safe with the kicking route, and certainly Lutz props as well in this one. And again, figures to be a low-scoring game. And I know you've examined a little bit with the kickoff returns too. You've been over this since week 1 that New Orleans wants you to bring it out. They want to kick short too.
They do, but are we going to get enough scores for that tonight?
Yeah.
That might be a problem. Okay, so what's the most juice that you have played so far this year with a kicker and his field goals over? Are you
Aubrey 170 on Aubrey, I think. It's the highest I went. Yeah, but he's got there every time but one.
Here are some numbers, and I already like Lutz, and I saw this good breakdown from Alex Caruso on X. The Saints have allowed 15 field goal attempts over their last 5 games. That's 3 each, obviously. And they've allowed 6+ kicks, field goal attempts, and extra point attempts in 3 straight games. Primetime kickers attempting at least 2 field goals this year, 30 out of 42, that's 71%. And Lutz has hit 13 out of 14 field goals so far on the season. It's going to be played in a dome. Mm-hmm. I think 1.5 for Lutz tonight to go over is absolutely manageable.
Yeah.
Because, again, this could be, this offense, I should say, for the Broncos, it's not going to be littered with explosive plays down the field, right? I think they could move the ball between the 20s potentially, but then capping off those drives with touchdowns are going to be a lot harder than what it would seem because their offense just is not that great. And so they stall out on 4th and 5. Let's trot Lutz out there again in the dome and have him kick, a couple of field goals in this spot.
Total made field goals is plus 105, over 3.5.
Over 3.5.
You can do that too. So I'm with you on that one.
All right.
And I have no problems with that. And then you got the kid for the Saints who looks like he's 14 years old. And they're not letting him in stadiums. Who are you? Oh, I play. Get out of here.
Yeah,
see
sure
some
you do.
Identification, right? Looks like he's 14.
Right.
That's crazy.
We also have ALCS game number 3 coming up in an hour from Cleveland.
They're begging you to bet Cleveland. Begging you. Right? It's a must-win. Season on the line.
Oh, yeah. Matt Humans came on the show yesterday, made his case for him when they were plus 101 at the time.
Well, thank you. Amen. Wells out, Trevino in, Stanton hitting cleanup. That's how it should be.
There's no way, no how Boone could actually pencil in Wells for the cleanup spot anymore.
No. He's been an automatic out other than game 1. So I love that. And I love how Stanton's been hot. Now he's hitting cleanup tonight. And again, the pen, ERA under 1 in the last 23 innings, and what Weaver's done as well. Holmes has been great, too. 1.23 ERA in the last 14 2/3. We'll see what Schmidt can give them, and we'll see if there's any life here to the Guardians. Other than Kwan, who can you count on? Let's go back to the well with Kwan, right? The 12-game postseason hitting streak. He's hitting .440.
Yeah.
Get a base hit, get a single, whatever you want to do with Kwan. He's been awesome. But it's, what can they do offensively? And that was a ugly game, too. Sloppy both sides, ton of walks, drop pop-ups and everything. So we'll see what Cleveland's made of here today and if they can make it interesting. But Schmidt was good in Kansas City. I know you're going to say Kansas City can't hit. That's right. But what can Cleveland do? And can they get the big hit when ducks are on the pond? That's the other thing, what they are unable to deliver thus far. 18 runs against the Yankees this year in regulation.
Oh, yeah.
Think about that.
Yeah,
in all these games.
Yeah, 9 of the runs again came in extra innings.
That's right. Mm-hmm. Yep, good point. Horrendous with runners in scoring position. 3 of 41 going back. Third best home record in all of baseball. But to me, it's just I just want Kwan props here.
I'll give it to you right now.
That's about it. Yep.
Because the juice again is not that bad. It was $1.30 in the last game. He got a single. That was against Garrett Cole. Tonight, you can still find $1.30 if you shop around. $1.35 is a more common price. With how dialed in this kid has been at the plate. And I think a single is the most probable outcome for him rather than anything else. So to get a hit, by the way, that was priced at as high as minus 215 last time out against Garrett Cole. Today it's 230 minimum that you're going to find on him.
Mm-hmm. And the others have been great for the Yankees, especially the 7, 8, 9 hitters were awesome in Game 2. So there's a lot of guys who've been chipping in the postseason here with the Yankees and helping out Judge and the others.
Anything with the bizarre shadows at this time?
Oh, that's right.
Too late in the day?
Time.
I might be too late in the day.
Yeah, it's usually 2 hours earlier where you get the madness based on that time. But yeah, maybe early on.
Win some, lose some next here on VSiN.
Time. There's nothing more valuable. It's what drives everyone to make the most of every moment. We celebrate living large in the now. In a city where time disappears, we create experiences that electrify the soul and memories that will last forever. We go big, we go all night, and here, everyone is invited. So get loose and get loud.
This is Circa. You'll have the time of your life.
So, Pauly, have you had a chance to read the VSiN Daily yet?
Yeah, came in at 3 a.m. What's Bill doing up that late?
Well, rumor has it, it starts off with a 12-hour meditation session.
Then he just pours himself over film and live TV, really focusing and taking it all in. Bill's in with the biggest insiders, talking trade secrets, strategies, the whole nine, absorbing the info.
And then and only then can the writing process begin.
In Las Vegas, Bill's late night becomes your early morning. Wake up to the very latest betting insights in your inbox with the VSiN Daily. Sign up for free at vsin.com/newsletter.
Coming up Thursday on Follow the Money. Thursday night football. 2 playoff games in Major League Baseball, college football. Guests are Brad Powers, Paul Charchian, pro sports bettor Paul Bovey, and soccer with the Meat Man. Follow the Money weekdays, 4 to 7 Eastern on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
Want to see who at VSiN is on a hot streak? Go to vsin.com/picks to see all the selections and weekly leaderboard of VSiN hosts, writers, and guests. Become a VSiN Pro subscriber and get every pick sent to your inbox daily. Just head to vsin.com/pro. last night?
Wow, winning.
Or was it a rough one?
Well, they can't all be winners, can they?
Loser! You're a loser!
Pauly Howard recaps the night in sports betting in Win Some, Lose Some.
Kike Hernandez does it again. 10-1 to hit a home run. 30-1 here at Circa to hit the first home run of the game. And Dodgers also get it done. Another shutout for the fourth time in the last 5 games. Are you serious? Cleveland in 2016 has the record with 5.
But they're pitching.
Yeah, I know.
I'll tell you what. He got me good last night, Buehler.
I know.
Now, the Mets had a zillion chances in the first 3 innings.
They did. And
could not capitalize on that. I'm still scratching my head. But I will tip my cap to Walker Buehler. He made some incredible pitches last night when he had to.
Striking out Lindor. Oh, yeah, come on, Mets. Buehler over 4.5 Ks and the Dodgers win plus 290. Ohtani to go deep plus 280. Ohtani home run and the Dodgers win plus 450. Muncy, who has reached base 8 straight plate appearances, plus 425 to go deep. And the Maple Leafs from 165 up to 195. They get it done. Subscribe, be part of the team, VSiN.com. Our radio and podcast friends. You always want to see these tweets and videos. The little French Bulldog puppy with his first pup cup at Starbucks. Look at him. He's got dressed up, got the little hoodie on, a little cold out there. He's in the back seat, got his own seat, and going to town with that. He loves it. Look at him. It's all over the place. It's on the seat. It's over his mouth. He's going to say, I need a breather here. I got to take a break. Look at him. He's wearing it all over his face. Oh, look, all over the seat.
Let me get that. Let me clean that up.
Cup. Yep.
Have you done this before for Jordan? Ice cream, pup cup.
They usually, like some places will give him a bone, but I've never done the pup cup.
Try the foam or the ice cream sometime.
Okay, yeah. And I know at a lot of places we see it where the husky will be in the back seat and he'll start barking and they'll give it to him as well. That's excellent. Look at that. That's awesome. At Pauly Does Vegas on Instagram, send him in. We'll put you on. At the dog, look at the French Bulldog here again. And the dog the baby trying to get the food here. The same size. Look at this. Trying to grab it. Yeah. Get the paw too short. He's looking for help. I don't know what to do. Look at him. I can't get it. We got to get that food. Come on. Boost me up. Little baby. He's trying to jump on the kid. He can't do it. Oh, it's too good. Yeah, absolutely. I can't believe Lose Some, ESPN.com today. There's a story on Fireman Ed. Front page about how the Jets are, quote, phasing him out. I met the guy here last year. I mean, it's like I'm watching the game Monday night, and they still, every time they're on, the network show him, and he just sits there and does the Jets, Jets, and then, okay, now be louder. I can't hear you. And it's like, what are we doing? As a fan base, an organization, and this guy, and he's complaining about being phased out because he's not getting enough airtime on the Jumbotron? And that's a story on ESPN.com? Come on. Who cares about Fireman Ed?
This is what happens when a lot of their on-air talent openly root for the New York Jets.
Yeah, good point.
And they think that people across the country care about this crap. They don't.
It's front page.
Come on. If you pay attention to their headlines half the time, you will be in awe at how incredibly dumb some of the stuff is and unnecessary. Or in this case, completely forced.
Mm-hmm. Bad for the books. We both won. Liberty, 1.5 up to 4. They won by 3.
Oh, God.
And I lost my dad at a young age. I don't talk to my family. I don't like my sister. I was in love with a beautiful girl, and she asked me to get married. I said no, and 2 months later, she won $12 million. I loved her so much. This is one of the worst weeks of my life. The Jets cost me the quarterly and the six week, and then I got future tickets all over on the links, and they're up 18. Of course, a Minnesota team, again, would lose in the most painful way possible on the biggest stage, and they blow a 15-point lead in pivotal Game 3 and lose.
It's a killer loss.
Vicious beat. Can't lose that game. Only a Minnesota team would lose that. God.
Why do you hate your sister so much?
Oh, several reasons.
Okay.
I don't have enough time.
When's the last time you talked to her? You were both adopted, though, correct?
Yeah, it's
okay.
Like half-sister.
Yeah, so it doesn't really count.
Right, yeah, absolutely. Got that.
If she came out here and needed some help from you, would you?
Remember she came out here on
I remember, yes.
The honeymoon?
Yes.
You remember that?
I remember. We talked about it locally on the air. It was some of the best stuff we've ever done. They came out here. She demanded first stop had to go to Target.
Yeah, because she didn't want to pay for a soda at the cafe.
Yeah, we ended up
at the convenience store.
We ended up taking phone calls and texts for like a half an hour on it, and we were mocking her basically.
Yeah,
making fun of your poor little sister. Now that I look back at it,
she was staying down the street here on her honeymoon, and she wanted to go to Target because she worked there and got the company discount.
First time ever in Las Vegas.
Wanted to get like stuff.
Yeah.
She didn't want to pay to go out and eat and stuff. And
it was great. What's next? Food stamps at the Cosmo. They're going to go to a flea market at Mandalay Bay?
Panda Express at Bellagio. Absolutely. Basketball season's here. We have plenty of bets and futures we'll talk about coming up. It starts Tuesday, and we have you covered. VSiN Pro subscriber. Get it. Little as $9.99 your first month. Get everything we do here. Every pick, every host, every guest, and the betting guide, previews, power ratings, every team. Von Tobel did a great job. VSiN.com/subscribe. Get it now. VSiN.com/subscribe. Oh, that's such a horrible loss.
Terrible loss.
And she made it, but that's a horrible possession.
Oh, it's a terrible shot.
It's a tie game. She shoots from the logo.
Of course, a terrible shot. But, it goes in, so people don't want to talk about that.
Yeah.
But tip your cap. They came all the way back to win. I'll be honest, they have, for the most part, been the much better team in the series. Last night, I don't know, the Lynx can't blow that game, obviously. And did you bet the Liberty at halftime? They were laying 4, and they were down by 8. I had to do it, and I was hoping that I would lose it because I need the Lynx 11-1 ticket, or you have a better number than that.
Yeah.
Would have been very nice to come in. Yeah. Now, what do you make of the next game?
I have to come back with the Liberty.
I think you have to.
Yeah, that's a demoralizing loss. I know you're going to say let's tie it and go back to New York, Game 5, but the bigger point is it's what happened in the first 2 games. It's the first time in WNBA history that there have been 2 times where we've had 15-plus point comebacks. We've only had 3 games. It's happened in 2 of them.
Wow.
But, yeah, I have to take the Liberty again. Yeah. And now you just can't do anything because the series price is out of control. And then even if the Lynx win this one, the Liberty will probably lay in 7 in Game 5.
How about some anytime touchdown parlays for tonight's game?
Yeah, let's eat.
You want to get nuts?
Absolutely.
Okay, so we ran down some of the rushing numbers with the Saints defense in the first segment. They're putrid. They're really, really awful against the run. Again, look no further than the last couple of weeks. Last Sunday, Sean Tucker had 136. Bucky Irving had 81. That's all you need to know. We can go back deeper than that if you'd like. So I think Williams is in a good spot to score a touchdown tonight. Sutton, for a long time, has been like the number 1 red zone guy for the Broncos once they get down in that territory. The problem is, like the Saints are really good against wide receiver number 1s, but I can still trust maybe taking some shots to Sutton. I'll go Javonte Williams, Sutton, and you want to throw Bub Means on the board as well?
Hey, Bub.
It pays about 43-1. I took out Means, I put in Foster Moreau, that pays 62-1. Pizza money here bets on some anytime touchdowns.
Yeah, I took an 80-1. Quick pick, Wimpy. Kamara scores, Williams scores, Tipton over 40 yards, Bailey over 60 yards, Nix a touchdown and over 200 yards, 80-1.
Okay.
It's a same game parlay. Bunch of quick picks up there, Caesars and William Hill.
Now,
but
here's the thing. I'm not expecting touchdowns tonight.
Yeah.
So you could actually cut it down to 2 if you want as well. What do you think about both quarterbacks getting in the end zone tonight? Rather can take off.
Not bad, yeah.
Nix loves to run.
Yeah. How about they both have 200 yards passing and 20 rushing? That's 11-1.
Oh, I don't know if they can get to 200 passing.
That's too much?
That's a lot.
Yeah, but what if it's a blowout? What if someone has a comfortable lead and there's one big play? I mean, let's say Rattler hits on something downfield big and then there's turnovers and Nix is forced to throw. I mean, I don't think that's crazy.
What does it pay?
11-1.
But
I'm there with you with the rushing yards.
I think
200 yards passing?
Oh, yeah. I can definitely get there with the rushing yards.
I'm betting that right now.
Are you really?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Come on.
All right. So I think I'm going to have multiple touchdown bets. And, again, small bets here. But if one of them pops, it's a pretty decent night. Because I can't deny what you said earlier. I think 80-1. Here's what but we can't find this in Las Vegas. How about no touchdown first half?
Right. I know. Our guy, Evan. Where are you, Evan? It's been 3 years. Enough already. I know he used to bet that all the time at DraftKings at Foxwoods. And a bunch of them hit.
That 1 year they were coming in
they were coming in nonstop in the prime time games. No touchdown in the first half. Hard to find.
I don't mind that at all. I doubt it's going to be 40-1. I don't think they're not going to cut the bike in half, as you say, but 80-1 for the full game. That can be fun if you can stretch it into the third quarter somehow. Then you have a really good sweat on your hands for 3 hours, you know?
Yeah. There was another one here that's kind of cool. and I know you're getting involved. What are there? There's like 12 hockey games tonight. Judge and Ohtani both to have a hit. Kamara 50 yards rushing, and Ovechkin scores 6-1.
Okay.
Yeah, not bad. I don't think that's crazy. And I know our guy Jonathan Davis likes Ovechkin over shots on goal tonight too. So,
can Judge and Stan both get a hit though?
Ohtani,
sorry.
Well, yeah, there's guys on base. Yeah,
I know.
You believe this? He's 17 of his last 20. When there's a guy when there's runners on.
Does it sound silly to drop him in the order?
Roberts does. I don't. Not if he's 0 for 22, bases empty, and 17 to 20 with ducks on.
Yep. Fantasy Football Hall of Famer Paul Charchian on the show coming up next. So, Saints wide receivers Chris Olave and Rashid Shaheed are both out. Who is Spencer Rattler throwing the ball to tonight?
Sports betting game with VSiN's exclusive betting splits. Stay ahead with real-time market trends and track bet percentages on any matchup, then uncover the edge by comparing them to the amount of bets placed to find out where the sharp money is headed. Upgrade to VSiN Pro to access betting splits, live odds, line moves, power ratings, and in-depth game analysis. Go to VSiN.com/pro to join VSiN, the sports betting network.
This is VSiN, the sports betting network.
This is Follow the Money on VSiN.
Welcome back. Time now for Paul Charchian to join the program, Fantasy Football Hall of Famer, website guillotineleagues.com. The podcast is called Fantasy Football Weekly, and he is here on the Progressive guest line. Charge, good afternoon. How are you?
Great to talk to you. Viral.
Zero.
No, viral.
Viral, okay, yes.
Viral,
Yep.
yeah. I mean, you asked. I'm giving
Okay.
you an honest answer.
Gotcha.
I felt people should know.
I thought you said that I thought you were calling yourself Zero. I heard a Z in there, like Zorro.
Well, no, although, maybe that was subconscious. I mean, I don't think I think of myself that way.
Okay.
But, yeah.
Let's begin here. I said this during the break. There's no Olave. There's no Shaheed. People know this at this point. Spencer Rattler making his second start now with the Saints. Who is he throwing the ball to tonight, Church?
Well, so your Saints starting three receivers are Bub Means, Cedric Wilson, and Mason Tipton. Bub Means heavily targeted last week, but it was all short stuff. If you want like 5 catches for 34 yards, that's your guy. More interesting guy is Mason Tipton. I didn't know anything about him until like 2 days ago. I was like, hey, I should probably learn about Mason Tipton, figure out who he is. Well, it turns out he's fast. He's going to run all the Rashid Shaheed deep ball patterns. I think his line, by the way, is sitting, there it is right there. It's 25.5 receiving yards. That he needs basically 1 catch to get that. So, that's in the realm of possibility, but I think more interesting about Tipton. I'm like, I'll watch his highlights on YouTube. Well, he went to Yale. So he's destroying these eggheads playing defense for Princeton and Dartmouth and Brown and then Harvard. Now, Yale-Harvard is one of the oldest rivalries in football. Do you guys know about one of the all-time great sports pranks ever pulled with the Yale-Harvard rivalry?
Go ahead.
Okay.
Sounds like a quick story.
It is. Well, semi-quick, but we've got 2 segments, so what the hell? You guys know how, like in some live events, every seat will have a placard and everybody will hold up the placard at one time. And then there'll be a pattern or there'll be words or whatever that get displayed when everybody holds up their placard. You know what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So Yale and Harvard game 2004, it's at Harvard. The Harvard Pep team distributes all the placards. And they're like, okay, at halftime, we're all going to raise up the placards. And so halftime comes. They've got all the placards out, and there really isn't a Harvard Pep team. It's 30 kids from Yale. And all of these Harvard people hold up the signs, and it spells out, "We suck."
Pretty good.
That's a fantastic prank right there.
They sound pretty sharp.
Yeah, isn't that funny?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Creative.
Yeah. Yale guys. Yeah.
All right.
Smarter than us.
So that's why you like Tipton tonight?
That's why I like Tipton tonight. Good. 2004, there was that. But
I like it.
In all seriousness, if Patrick Surtain was playing, this whole thing would be totally off the board. But look, if you just want to have fun with something tonight, Mason Tipton, you're basically looking for 1 deep catch because they're going to keep throwing the ball deep like they did to Rashid Shaheed in the old days.
Okay, so a prop you like, and also what do you think of Rattler?
So I thought Rattler looked okay as a passer, a lot of short stuff, and then occasionally they'd uncork a long one. He's got an arm for it, for sure. But I do have a betting angle on Spencer Rattler that has nothing to do with his arm. We're going to go over 21.5 rushing yards.
Yes.
And I'm going to try to give you, I just found this scrambling data that I did not know was available. I'm going to see if you've ever heard this level of scrambling data that I'm going to give you here. Okay, first thing to understand, Rattler's got some wheels. He ran for 29 yards in his debut last week. I don't think he's going to get designed runs, but he's going to scramble and maybe a lot in this game. The Broncos have the 3rd most quarterback pressures, and so there's going to be a quickly crumbling pocket around Spencer Rattler. He's not somebody who has the discipline yet to make a bunch of reads. It's not going to be like, first guy, second guy, third guy. It's a second NFL start as a rookie. He's going to be my first guy's covered. I'm in trouble, and he's going to go run. The Broncos are seeing 4 scrambles per game. That is a little bit more than NFL average. The Broncos are allowing 9 yards per scramble. So let's do the math. 4 scrambles per game times 9 yards per scramble. You carry the 1, divide by 0. That's 36 yards. That's 36 scrambling yards right there. Our line is 21. So we're going to try for the over on this one, assuming Bub Means and Cedric Wilson and Mason Tipton are generally going to be covered pretty well. By the way, the Broncos have allowed 6 4 of their 6 opposing quarterbacks to top this rushing line, including Gardner Minshew, who got pulled at halftime, and he still topped the 21.5 rushing yards.
Okay. Anything to like with Bo Nix tonight? I think his legs can get it done as well, but how do you correlate this with his arm? Cortland Sutton, I think the Saints are number 1 DVOA against wide receiver number 1s. Is there anybody else that you like potentially in the air for the Broncos tonight?
There's not, and Sutton would be the one guy that I would trust, but, Marshawn Lattimore loves these physical matchups like Mike Evans and Cortland Sutton. This is like his dream matchup right here. And honestly, we should probably I didn't look at the Sutton under. I probably should have. I think the Sutton under would make sense. If that line is coming in at, I'm going to guess his over under for Cortland Sutton is sitting at about 47 yards.
48 and a half. 48 and a half at Caesars.
Nice. All right. Let's go on. Let's go under that.
All right. Okay. Excellent. How about the big trades? Adams to the Jets, Cooper to the Bills. Can we start them? Do we expect anything? Thank God no more Mike Williams. Walk us through this in the trades, what happens with Buffalo and the Jets now.
Mitch and Pauly, can we agree that Aaron Rodgers helped engineer the Davante Adams acquisition?
Yes, absolutely.
Sure.
He called out 100%. Mike Williams publicly.
That was the fire starter right there.
Yeah, no doubt. Can we also agree that Aaron Rodgers is petty enough to validate his own trade by peppering Davante Adams with targets, even if he's only on the field for half the snaps?
Sure. Not bad. Not a bad angle.
It is an angle.
Yeah.
And, sometimes these things work this way. And I think Adams is still pretty good. He was heroic in that Raiders upset win over Baltimore at the end of the game. He was phenomenal in that. And suddenly he's healed from his hamstring injury. So that's not a factor. And look, at the end of the day, and this is a fantasy football bit, fantasy football is supposed to be fun. What would be more fun than starting Davante Adams Sunday night, national game, first game reunited with the guy that brought you there, Aaron Rodgers? I just want a piece of that on my team because fantasy football is supposed to be fun. And I want that, if only for the human drama and the sports drama of it. Sure, it's a good Steelers secondary, but not an elite one. Something called Christian Wilkerson scored against the Steelers last week. So, yeah, I've got Davante Adams as wide receiver 33. I think I'm going to find a way to get him on the lineup just because I like fun.
Yeah, and we talked to Rich Gannon yesterday, and he said he's going to know everything, and Rodgers will just tell him where to go, where it won't be a problem. And Gannon would know that as well. How about Cooper?
All right, so now my Cooper take is a little bit different. For this week, I don't like Cooper on the field for roughly half the snaps, and then Tennessee is the defense. We think of Tennessee as just like a garbage team, but their defense is really good, and their pass defense is borderline great. They've allowed the fewest yards per game to wide receivers, just 2 scores all year to wide receivers, and no receivers topped 67 yards against the Titans all year. So I'm going to wait a week on starting Cooper, but long term, when I look past this matchup and farther down the season, Cooper's got more upside than Davante Adams has. He is the alpha receiver in Buffalo. Josh Allen is his best quarterback since leaving Dak Prescott. And if you're worried that Amari Cooper is bad because he's been bad this year, keep this in mind. Last season, in those 5 Joe Flacco starts with good quarterbacking, Cooper averaged 109 yards per game. And so, yeah, Cooper's been bad this year. But here's the thing. When you play in a physical radius of Deshaun Watson, he drains the love of the game from everybody around him. He's a malaise magnet. And now in Buffalo, Amari Cooper's going to be re-energized. He's going to be on a division-leading team, catching balls from Josh Allen, heading to the playoffs. So I'm very optimistic about Cooper long term.
All right. Follow the money, Pauly and Mitch VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. Paul Charchian, our guest, Hall of Famer for the fantasy. GuillotineLeagues.com on the progressive guest line. 90 seconds till we have to break. Revenge game for Barkley. Does he go off against the Giants?
Well, maybe not as much as we think so. It is obviously clear revenge game. And if you watch the offseason version of Hard Knocks, you know the breakup was not amicable for Barkley. When Joe Shane, said, "Oh, we'll let you go, and then we'll try to match it," and Saquon told him to jam it. It was great television. I loved it. The Giants' defense is good. It's shockingly good. Over the past month of games, they're only giving up 53 rushing yards per game, only 3.9 yards per carry, only 1 rushing touchdown allowed. And if any team knows any flaws in Saquon's game, it's the Giants. So I'm actually a little bit nervous about Barkley here. You got to start him in fantasy because, he's still very good and he's a lead back on a good offense. But, I I don't think we're going to get an explosive revenge game headed our way.
Juice Reel, changing the way sports bettors buy and sell betting advice. If you ever get red hot and think your picks are worth money, check it out. You'll love it. Everyone's links their accounts into Juice Reel. All your history loads into the free app. Everyone's bets bets imported straight from the books. You're as good as your betting data says you are. Unlock the picks that real talented bettors have their money on. Get paid real money when other people unlock your picks. Fully transparent betting advice from real people. Only on Juice Reel. REEL. Download for free, iPhone or Android. Grab it. Get it now. We love them. Get it. Juice Reel. REEL.
And more with Fantasy Football Hall of Famer Paul Charchian up next. We'll get into his player props that he likes for Sunday's action. Week number 7 in the NFL. Coming up next here on Follow the Money. It's VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
In the heart of downtown Las Vegas, a sports oasis awaits. Stadium Swim, the ultimate outdoor amphitheater, built for the ultimate sports fan. With a colossal screen that brings the game closer than ever. Reserve a daybed, private cabana, or lounge in the center of it all. 6 pools to dive into as the game heats up. And the best part, there's never an off-season. Open 365 days a year. Stadium Swim, it's always spectator season.
Matt Brown and Mike Somich are on Ready, Set, Bet as they get you ready to make your bets as the last batch of football games kick off.
What I took away from this is I want to bet against the Patriots when they're behind by 2 scores.
We were going, well, I wonder if this team's actually better than we thought. They're not. They just have enough talent.
Don't miss out on crucial advice for live betting once the game starts, as well as looking ahead to the upcoming action. Tune in to Ready, Set, Bet, Saturdays at 7 p.m. and Sundays at 8 p.m. Eastern on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network.
This is Follow the Money on VSiN.
We will continue with Fantasy Football Hall of Famer Paul Charchian in a second. Some notes that we wanted to throw at you. We found no touchdown first half tonight, 7-1.
Good job, Caesars. Yep.
I don't think it's too short of a number for me to play, however.
Yep.
And breaking news in college basketball, Virginia head coach Tony Bennett has retired.
Interesting timing. Right before the season. Oh, man.
What are we, less than a month away?
Yeah.
Effective immediately.
Yep. And
stepping down as Virginia head coach.
Shahid's also out for the year.
Yeah, okay.
You got that, too.
All right, Chargers with us here. Progressive guest line. Big game in your neck of the woods on Sunday. Vikings obviously 5-0. Lions are 4-1. Awesome performance after the bye against the Cowboys. Is there a player prop that you like in this matchup, and who do you think wins the game?
Look, I'm a lifelong Viking fan. The other shoe always drops, and it feels like this is the perfect place for it to drop. The Vikings injury report littered with guys, even though they're coming off the bye week. They got a lot of injury problems right now. That could be a big factor in this game. Granted, the Lions are going to have to do without the guy who was probably going to win defensive MVP. But nevertheless, the Vikings may be way more beat up than I think anybody, including myself, expected heading into this game. Still don't know about Aaron Jones as one of the big question marks for this one. The guy that I really like is Amon-Ra St. Brown, Sun God, over 76.5 yards. Last year in the two meetings, Amon-Ra St. Brown put up 106 and 144 yards against the Vikings. Now, the Vikings give up 43% of all wide receiver yards to the slot. That's where St. Brown plays. 43% is quite a bit more than average. Good slot receivers have already hammered the Vikings this year. Deebo Samuel, 110 yards. Stephon Diggs, 94 yards, running mostly from the slot. Jaden Reed, 139 yards. Good slot receivers killing this Vikings defense. Now, the Vikings man the slot and slot receivers different ways, but the most common cornerback to hit the slot is Byron Murphy. Let me tell you about Byron Murphy for a minute. He's allowing more receiving yards than any player in the league. 81.5 yards per game allowed by Byron Murphy in his coverage. That's a staggering number for a cornerback. He's also allowing more receptions than any player in the league, 7 per game in his coverage. So it all lines up for Amon-Ra St. Brown. It's a big number. 76.5 is not trivial. So it gave me some time to pause. But at the end of the day, there's so many positives that would suggest that Amon-Ra can sky over that number that I like the over here.
And you're just going to say, I'm from Minnesota. We can't have nice things. That's why the Vikings lose.
I know. Look, listen, I know there's no analysis to that. I understand that. It's just I don't trust. Sometimes I don't trust myself with the Vikings, and this is one of those times. I don't know.
What happens with Ayuk in the Chiefs game?
Oh, yeah, I'm glad you asked about this one because Ayuk has been obviously a massive disappointment since a protracted holdout. 5 of his 6 games have been just utter duds. The line here is 59.5. He hasn't touched 59.5 yards in 5 of the 6 games. He's averaged 41 yards. 19 yards below today's line. He's had 1 blow-up game. Take that away, and he's been terrible. Now, here's the real problem, though, with Brandon Ayuk and why I like the under, 59.5 yards. His individual matchup will primarily be against Trent McDuffie. McDuffie is a damn good cornerback. Now, he's not on the Jalen Johnson, Sauce Gardner level, but he's right at that next tier. And when a team's got a clear number 1 outside receiver, like Brandon Ayuk is, McDuffie largely shadows during that game. The average game in Trent McDuffie's coverage is 25 yards. That's all he gives up. And so we'll look at the other number 1 receivers who have faced Trent McDuffie this year. And again, Ayuk's number is 59.5 yards. Zay Flowers, 37 yards. Jamar Chase, 35 yards. Drake London is presumably the number 1 for Atlanta, but for whatever reason, they didn't put Trent McDuffie on him. They put Trent McDuffie on Darnell Mooney in that game, and Mooney had 2 catches. None of Drake London's 67 yards came against Trent McDuffie. Then in week 4, they played the Chargers. They don't have a number 1 wide receiver. Then in week 5, Chris Olave, 10 yards against Trent McDuffie. It's just, the guy's great. Brandon Ayuk struggling. This feels like 59.5 feels out of reach for Brandon Ayuk.
Great breakdown.
Yes.
Okay. So the total in the Washington-Carolina game has been climbing all week, right? And it makes a lot of sense. So we can expect a lot of points in this game. Commanders are a huge favorite. Let's flip it here, though. Who does well on the Carolina offense? Because this defense is absolutely exploitable for the Commanders.
Yeah, very. By the way, who would have guessed going into the season that the Panther Commanders game would at any point be, the highest over under of any given week? How about let's go with Andy Dalton, over 246 yards and over 1.5 touchdowns. I like that angle. It's plus 115 on the over 1.5 touchdowns. He's thrown multiple touchdowns in 3 of his 4 starts so far. The Washington secondary has improved since the beginning of the year when they were getting roasted, but this recommendation on Dalton is all about volume. Dalton is throwing the 6th most passes because he's constantly in negative game scripts, which is going to happen here too because the Panthers defense is terrible. He's going to be playing from behind or at minimum going to have to be battling back and forth. Dalton averages 36 pass attempts per game. That's a lot. The 2 passers against Washington who have thrown more than 30 passes threw for 289 yards and 324 yards. And those guys threw 4 and 3 touchdowns respectively. Wow. That was Baker Mayfield and Joe Burrow. They're better quarterbacks than Dalton is, but Dalton's can just heave the ball enough here where I think he's able to get past the 246 and the 1.5 touchdowns.
I love it. That's great. Follow the money here on VSiN, the Sports Betting Network. Our guest, Fantasy Football Hall of Famer Paul Charchian, GuillotineLeagues.com. Podcast is called Fantasy Football Weekly. So if you go back a week ago on this show, we were talking a lot about how the Seahawks, I think, were going to use both running backs in the passing attack. Charbonnet and Kenneth Walker went over the receiving yards, and Walker now has become, he suddenly turned into like this guy that Geno Smith goes to right through the air.
Yeah.
So do you think sportsbooks have adjusted too much, or is he worth a play again this week?
I'm taking the over again. He goes up against Atlanta. Now, Seattle's new offensive coordinator is Ryan Grubb, and I love what he's doing with this team. He's doing whatever it takes to get the ball into Kenneth Walker's hands because Kenneth Walker is the best playmaker on that entire offense. I'm including everybody, including DK Metcalf in that. Last year, Walker was only getting 2 targets per game. This year, 6 targets per game. Wow. That is wide receiver level usage right there for Kenneth Walker through the air. He has topped the 20.5 line in all 3 of his fully healthy games. And the Falcons are seeing the 6th most running back receiving targets per game, 5 per game. So really feel confident that he's going to be in that 5-6 catch range or target range. The 2 good pass catching backs that have faced Atlanta, Saquon Barkley and Alvin Kamara, they both topped the 20.5 yard receiving line. I like that angle for Kenneth Walker.
All right.
Stay hot.
Yeah, let's stay hot. Some fantasy news and also NFL news. The Packers finally cut Narveson. Although I had missed a kick in every game, and they bring in Brandon McManus now. And the Packers, in a good game, host the Texans. What do you want to do with Kraft props?
Tucker Kraft's interesting. 2 and 3 weeks ago, he posted these back-to-back big games, 140 total yards for their tight end. But in those games, Christian Watson was hurt. Romeo Doubs was suspended, and that helped funnel targets to Tucker Kraft. Then what happens last week when all the receivers are healthy? 2 catches for 13 yards for Tucker Kraft. Texans are the league's 2nd best tight end defense. The average game against them for tight ends is just 3 catches for 26 yards to all tight ends. And unlike some tight ends who stand up in the slot, and this is really an important distinction, Tucker Kraft overwhelmingly lines up in line. That puts him right next to the Texans' elite edge rushers, Danielle Hunter and Will Anderson. I think Anderson's the reigning defensive player of the week. So it's easy to envision Tucker Kraft being asked to double team Hunter and Anderson rather than going into routes. So we're going to take the Tucker Kraft under 38.5 receiving yards.
Now that is an awesome angle. By the way, do you have an opinion on that game?
Haven't broken it down from a winners and losers standpoint. No, I don't have a strong opinion on that game.
How about this chart?
I could see either team winning this. I think they're both excellent teams. Yeah.
One book is offering 24-1 on all 4 teams from the NFC North to make the playoffs.
Yeah.
It's a freaking knife fight in the NFC North.
Yeah.
No, this is the farthest into an NFL season that any division has had all of its teams above 500. Now, they haven't played each other, which is part of it. Mm-hmm. Only Minnesota's played Green Bay. They've got one matchup between them all, so it's all coming. And then this thing's going to be bloody because they're all really good teams. And Jordan Love, geez. For anybody who rolled their eyes at the Packers making him the highest paid quarterback, Yeah, nobody's doing that now. He looks fantastic. He looks just fantastic.
He looks great. Quickly, are the Bears a playoff team, though, you think?
In any other division, yes. I think in this one, they're going to get beat down. But their secondary is fantastic, and they're building something special.
They are. They're going to be real. I think they're a year or two away from being really, really good the way it appears. Charge,
exactly.
Yep, you're the man. Thanks so much for the time, as always.
Thanks, friends. Yep, we'll talk to you next week. Bye-bye.
Very good. There you go. GuillotineLeagues.com, Fantasy Football Weekly. He was on the Progressive Guest Line. Great analysis from Paul Charchi. We get into the soccer world up next. It returns this weekend. Steve Wiss joins the program. He'll share some of his best bets coming up.
The only thing better than football is the excitement of all